I suspect at the end of it you might say, Bruce, why don't you do that all the time? All those comments go to Anne, not to me. We are going to work our way pretty assiduously through it to get there by 12:15 at the latest. I have warned staff that I'm expecting minimum comments to the absolute P, so that we can actually go straight into members' questions. So I said to Cameron this morning that these are great papers. They are an easy read. It's pretty obvious what are the issues at hand. Cameron's response was, they're always good, Bruce. But I just want to acknowledge, actually, that they are good, and they will help us with our governance role here today with finance and assurance. So we are pretty quick on it today, so there's no questions. I'm going to move straight to the motion, etc. So without further ado, we are here. It's great to be here. Apologies, Matt said he may be late. Is he
No,
there?
we've just got Councillor Scrabble online.
We've got John online. Matt said he was going to be here, but he's now got to Zoom in. Not quite certain which part of the country. It might be Warrnambool, somewhere he is. And we've got Paul and Don on leave of absence. Oh, well done.
And Brian as well.
Huh?
And Brian as well.
Oh, and Brian as well. Okay. Rightio, well, let's just note, like...
Sarah might be still coming.
Sarah might still be coming. Okay, well, let's just note those for Sarah and Matt, and we just note that Paul and Brian are on leave of absence. I'm going to move it a seconder, please. Thanks, Rob. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes, it's carried. Leave of absences, I think we've noticed those. Nobody's requesting any more, are they? You're not allowed to go on holiday. Are there any matters coming up that you need to note your interest for? I just feel it's important that we are dealing with the decision around Datascape, and I just reflect that previously I've made a general declaration that I chair a company called Regional Software Holdings Limited, for whom its major contract and contract law is Datacom. That doesn't, in my view, stop me from chairing the meeting, but I just wish that to be known. There's no matter that's coming up in that needs to affect me in any way, I think. Liam, Rachel, nothing to add, or members, nothing to add to the agenda, I don't think. So we've got the minutes of our meeting 25 March. I'm going to move we take them as true and correct. Go to the second, please. Thank you, Phil. Any discussion on those? Looks like the meeting we were in, correct? Brilliant. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, it's carried. Nobody participation required I'm aware of. That's great. So that gets us straight to the substantive report. It's 8.1. You know the page, but you'll have it there, page 17. Anne, your words, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr Chair. And as the Chair just noted, due to the Local Government Commission holding a meeting this afternoon, this agenda has been cut back by the reports that have indicated on the first page. In reviewing those reports, we noted that they are principally information reports, and we did check in with the relevant managers just to make sure that there was no issues or risks that they had identified that perhaps we should have brought to the committee's attention for this meeting, and there hasn't been. And so in due respect, they will be added, as they usually are, to the next meeting report. And that's, yeah.
Thank you. And look, and obviously Anne consulted me on what we got. Might I say, Jeandy and Jane did their good work and said, Bruce, you've got to listen to us anyway, and they pulled me into a call the other day, but I'm glad to say that seems to be ticking away well. Right, any questions or comments from folk? There being none, I want to move the motion that we, what are we doing? We note the work plan. I'll move it. Second. Thanks, Christine. All those in favour, please say aye. Yes, it's carried. Right, we've got the venture trustee audit to get out of the way. Standard, Joe. Any comments you need to make?
No, it's just stock standard. It's limited assurance for the debenture trust, where they take the information that's supplied from the stockholders and review, so it's not a complete audit like what SDC is, but it's carried out alongside to make sure that it's all consistent and agrees. So other than that, it's just to request that the committee approve for the mayor to sign to carry out the limited assurance audit.
Agreed. Well, look, I think we should change E from seeks agreement to agrees. Can I say that fee is less than many other dementia trustees around the country that I sign off? I think in this case, the lawyer playing a good game for this. I'm prepared to move this motion. Do I have a seconder? Yep. Thank you, Michael, for the discussion. Okay, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Please carry. Come on, guys. Am I in front? Okay, brilliant, Jane, well done.
Hi.
We've got you at the right end of the agenda for once. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I will keep this brief too and take the report as read. Just noting the risk profile this quarter, a lot has been driven by the same underlying factors. We've got the impacts of the fuel cost escalation now starting to emerge as a system-wide issue. We've also got amalgamation and reform uncertainties just continuing to act as a distraction, potentially delaying decisions and starting to strain some of our key relationships. So that's a really quick summary of the quarterly risk update. We've also got the annual review through to you guys to endorse today. ELT's had a look at that over the last quarter. We have assessed the current set as being fit for purpose. There's been some targeted refinements, again due to those same underlying factors that I just mentioned, which has just tweaked the risk register slightly. So happy to take the report as read and hand over to you for any questions.
Thanks, Jane, appreciate that. And look, my appreciation to you and to ELT that we've got a refreshed and updated set, and indeed the information that you've added to it has been really helpful, at least for me, still to get a quick sense of where we're at, in my view, without trying to kill conversation. I think there's a problem. So do you have questions or comments about our risk profile at the moment for Jane? Yes.
No comments as such, and perhaps this is for a later discussion around a workshop, it might be, but it's just my, I'd like to further understand just the templates themselves, like when we talk about potential risk triggers, for example, and I look at finance and internal risk triggers, and one of the potential risk triggers is inadequate asset management.
Yeah.
But we've kind of got that system strong, so I'm wondering why it's there and why our concentration isn't on new things that are actual new threats or risks, as opposed to things in here that I see would be managed. You know, for example, lack of effective financial reporting and monitoring. I have every confidence in that, so I'm not sure why it's in there as a potential risk trigger unless we're not doing our job at all, because we have audit controls, we have everything else. So my question is, why does it look like this, and does it take away from us attending to the current increasing risk?
It's a very good point, Councillor. There is, as part of this next rollover into the next financial year, I have done a review of the ELT risk register so that it's aware of fit for purpose, and the same is going to happen for your committee one to ensure that you're seeing what you need to see. Obviously, you're not going to see that level of operational detail that ELT see unless obviously you request to. We've usually done that as part of the deep dives, but I'm hoping potentially, as you say, as part of a workshop, understanding what it is you need to see so that we can actually bring forward. This has been around for a while now, and it does need an overhaul. So that is part of the work program for this year, is with the new financial year, is getting that a wee bit more fit for purpose, fit for future.
That will take on board for me anyway, because it's understanding the current and risk and what mitigations that we now need to put in place, where these are all in place. And okay, thank you.
I like the idea, Christine, of a workshop, to be honest. As if you need another workshop, I might hold my head, I suspect. I wonder if Jane, it might be useful you and I to chat after the meeting at some stage, just to go through what that has been. My take is one of the important things we have is that we have these risk profiles, these strategic risks, but we need to try and do our best. And this is what I've taken by the information you've given me here. And so going back to your idea of triggers, what are the things that would, I'm using the word trigger as a definition, I guess, that would suddenly make us be concerned that this risk was either increasing or indeed decreasing. And actually, also what we need to bolt onto that is actually, so when should we start feeling uncomfortable? Which is called hello risk appetite. I mean, I know we've dipped our tow in that water before. So Jane, I think it would be useful if we were to have that sort of discussion.
Fantastic, yep.
So thank you for that. Any other questions or comments for Jane at this stage? Jane, just
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, just around cyber security, under 18, it talks about further detail regarding treatments and controls relating to the risk, and it'll be made available in a separate public excluded report to the committee. Any idea of when that report might come to council?
That report usually comes to each finance and insurance. Craig usually comes in as part of the public excluded each committee.
Right, I killed for this meeting.
Yeah.
If I can be honest, mainly because I'm looking to keep it short.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Well, I know that this is around risk management, but will that report also talk about the opportunities around AI as well, from a risk management perspective?
Yes, we have actually done a deep dive into that in the past, and it's something that we can certainly bring through again, and I can certainly talk to Craig in terms of whether that's something that he wants to report against to you when he comes and speaks to the committee.
Great.
Yeah.
Correct idea, Tom. I was at a meeting yesterday. It wasn't public, it's just not too bad. Kevin Coast, and we had a report, our cyber report, and I did ask the cyber report to be held over to the next meeting, by the way. We go back to the work plan. It was interesting to get a report that said there were 45 different AI applications being used already by staff. And I say that generally in a positive sense, but actually it was more about knowledge, and of course it obviously then raises the real questions. So what are they using it for? How's it helping us? You know, the opportunities, let alone potentially the risks. So thanks for that, Tom. I think that would be good if you could mention that to Craig before we get back next meeting. Okay, anything else? I just had a couple of things, Jane, if I was just to rock through this. Your eye naturally goes to those things that have increased. Okay, and you can't help but get past change, which is also, I think, slightly and also related to reform and all that goes with that.
Yes.
Now, I'm taking on this that. Well, I actually don't know what to take from this. Where are we at? How comfortable? I mean, I might be looking Rob's ways more as anything else, and I appreciate Southland is slightly to one side of all the hemorrhaging that's going on around the country over Head Start. But there's also other reforms like the simplification of my voting rights. So, you know, there's a bit going on, and I just wondered at this stage, how is the organisation, let alone councillors being able to make decisions, how's the organisation coping with all this pressure? Because it's just getting laid on at pace. Anybody want to? I'm open to either Jane or indeed Rob. You may have an elected member. Jane, what's your thoughts?
Well, certainly I think there's a lot more knowledgeable people in the room, but certainly from a risk perspective, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, it's acting as a distractor, it's acting as a bit of a handbrake. It's that uncertainty does risk paralysis for the organisation in terms of investment opportunities or what we might choose to put in place without knowing what lies ahead of us. So from a risk perspective, that's the way we're looking at it, and certainly as an organisation, I think we've reported on this risk for some time as being it has an impact on the organisation, has an impact on yourselves at governance level.
I guess just to add on, we're in a pressure cooker at the moment, and the BAU of what council's been doing is a full-time job, and then there's a full-time job coming in on top of that with all the, and it's disconnected reform as well. So you've got all these different facets that inherently should be connected but aren't, particularly with the time frames and everything else. And the Head Start certainly is frustrating because it's got a very shortened time frame, and it's messy. But I think we've got a team to actually get us through. We've got it collectively in this room, and I think it's making sure that we don't lose focus of the outcomes that we're trying to do in our BAU with all of the noise coming outside, but it's definitely taking its toll. It's going to be.
It's too crude a question, but are we having to drop any BAU off or deprioritise? When you say it, I agree with you. You've got a full-time job. Is there, perhaps even Cameron, is anything on the side that you're seeing that perhaps risk is overused word, but I mean priorities may come under stretch over the coming 6 months?
So to answer the question, Mr. Chair, about whether we've dropped anything off, not at present. The next few weeks are obviously going to be quite intense. But I think from my point of view, the risk around all of the changes is that there's a potential for people to assume that Head Start has already happened.
That's right.
So people are imagining a different arrangement of councils up and down the country, and as though that has already happened, almost to the point that you hear conversations around, like it's people are starting to talk as though there's only, one council for Otago and Southland, for example, and then how stuff's going to happen. And that's the challenge, that actually none of it has yet happened. And while Head Start has been announced and subsequently refined a couple of times, I think DIA have updated their advice about how it might work. And backstop doesn't exist at all,
That's right.
even other than a concept.
As a threat, yeah.
So that's I think the thing that's probably for me making that's the highest risk out of the situation. A reassuring for us, of course, is that the local government commission process is underway. It's legislated. There's large parts of the Local Government Act already specify how all that works. So that's calming and reassuring. So while we don't know the outcome of that, we can take some comfort by the fact that it is a process that enables the ratepayers of Southland region to be involved in the decision, whereas the Head Start one doesn't.
I appreciate that. I would wonder that just looking through the risk, and that's good, Rob. I also like the fact that you're comfortable the team as a whole is working well, and that's credit to both management and to governance. And I know decision making, we're feeling pretty comfortable that we've got that's a stable risk environment for us. And I confess, I would be interested, to the extent that you can, how much thinking can be put into a couple of bullet points there about particularly the exploration of alternate delivery models and consideration of delivery and structure models. So I'm not talking about political change, I'm talking about actually the delivery models and processes and systems. It's just all I'm thinking of here is, and I'll take your advice on this one, Cameron. The question is, when is the right time to be thinking about that, given there's a lot yet to be settled? But I think a wee bit of backroom thinking on that would not be a bad idea. That's my view.
Yeah, the slight complication with that is there isn't any certainty about what is going to be delivered. So there is a little bit of busyness getting on designing delivery models or structures for organisations that yet don't know what they will be mandated to do. So there's a slight cart before the horse.
Oh, there is to my comments, I agree. And the question is, when do you start thinking about what could be the potential scenarios that might play out so that you're in front of the game? I totally take your point on that one, Karen. Okay.
I pride our organisation being flexible and nimble. Yeah, I'm sure we'll do that quickly.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Just based on that, if there is a preconceived sort of idea around this reorganisation taking place, and it doesn't occur, is there a strategic role of the Local Government Commission to, I guess, give us a certain level of guidance throughout that process as well? I mean, as a commission going through their own strategy based on that, and
you guys will be better aware of where Commission's mind at generally is these days. I don't have that option.
Well, I think the Commission's in as much of a, for want of a better word, that we are with left field conceptual. That's the key. There's no legislative backing to the Head Start process. So I think it's almost focusing on working with what we know, and what I've seen with this organisation, and I think collectively organisation, is actually focusing on our communities, which is what we're here for at the end of the day, and keeping that focus, and then the rest of it almost just becomes noise as that goes through, and we just keep towing the line of what's best for our people.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what washes out of this. There are a couple of strands here. I mean, people are saying also the national elections clearly could change the landscape, and what would that new landscape look like? Equally, there are some, and I'm not saying this is right, but there are some that have realised that actually when they start to think about water, it then becomes a question, why aren't we doing this for other things? Which is partly why you come back to that idea of different delivery models or ways of doing things. So we have a conjecture, but all I'm trying to reflect here is how do we keep an eye on where the race could be going and be ready for it. That's all I'm trying to counsel. Hey, just a couple other things, Jane, here. Have we actually got contractors seeking cost adjustments under contracts at this stage? Without breaking confidence? It's really a valuable type question. Looking down the back there, able to help, Jane?
Person to speak.
We've got contractors are flagging them.
Yeah.
They haven't necessarily charged us for them, but they're flagging as a potential, what do you call it, advance notification of a potential.
Yeah, adjustment factors. Yeah, okay.
But are they going?
No, I haven't. It's interesting. I haven't seen any literally come through across the sector, but it's interesting the threats there. The other thing that, and we will come back to this in PX, that does worry me, Jane, is the contractor variability in terms of health and safety. And we note that here as a trigger indicator, a theme, and I think we should be just spending a few moments on that and get obviously. The rest is fine. I like, I can say that for me personally, I like the recast 9 and some of the way you revised that, which is fine. Final chance for questions. Can we please go to the resolutions, which as we note, we recommend what's we've in some sense been discussing this morning becoming our new strategic profile. I'm not talking about. I'm going to move it. Tom, you happy to second it? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, it's carried. Thank you. Sarah, great to have you here. Righty, can we go on to the capital delivery update, please? Thank you. Any key points you need to make?
Not happy to take the report as read, and we're happy to take questions. Easiest way today.
Okay, do we have questions for Dave or for Fran over this report? Run through, I asked for the statement because I see quite a risk, but obviously it's we lead into discussion about the pensions plan, but also more particularly if you start to do the long planning in terms of delivery. We're going to be able to deliver $29.8 million of spend in the last May and this month.
Unlikely to be the total amounts. Unlikely to be the total amount. There's definitely projects where our contractors are stretched, and so they've pushed the start dates back, and some of them will obviously stretch over the both financial years. So
let's come back to some of my questions about contractors and focus on me at the moment, and because it comes up again later, actually some of the ability, I think it might have been the risk of there being available contractors with capacity or space to do work. We're a bit struggling in Southland.
Yeah, so most of the road transport work, for example, has been put out to market and being procured and is either in construction or about to be in construction, including the footpaths are just at evaluation stage. But there is one that we have not been able to, because it's a smaller job, not been able to get contractors at this point in time that are interested. So we'll have to carry that one over, for example. But it's only a small one, but that's a little bit of the frustration just at the moment. the volume of work probably, so.
Look, I'm comfortable. I'll take this as noted. Yes, Phil.
Just, you'll have to excuse my naivete. Page 79 of our agenda, there's the wee graph down the bottom, accumulated spend, cash flow versus actual. As regards to what was said around stuff that's delayed, and I see above that, excluding those that have been pushed out or cancelled, it's really encouraging to see that the actual year to date is low. Is that mainly because of stuff that's been pushed out or cancelled, or is there other contributing factors that's kept that down?
Not quite sure what you're asking there.
The where am I at?
Oh, that
That one.
Yeah.
Sorry, usual spend today.
Yeah.
No, the pushed out or cancelled doesn't affect that because generally those budgets get moved out of things. So what we're reporting on there is the current forecast. So that is the actual spend to date. It's low. We're approximately 15 million behind forecast. Yeah. And some of that is, you've got a huge amount of work that is actually committed, 88% of the program. So when we talk about committed, we talk about stuff that's actually physically gone into contract.
Yeah.
It's just the timing of the works is now been, by the time it got into contract, it's now pushing that out a bit.
Should we expect that blue to shoot up at any stage?
We should expect that trend to carry on. We've been spending quite well in the last few months. It should carry on, but we do need to carefully think about what that impact is on the next year.
That answers my next question. Cool. Thank you.
Yes, Christine.
Comment. I've spoken my concern in previous meetings, but I just thought the report on page 79 was really useful. We're having a quick look at that. And as has already been identified by the chair, there's probably a discussion in next year's thing, and that the ability to deliver what we say we're going to deliver is.
I think it's just in terms of the few that are in the red, those four, there's emergency management, like emergency funds once again. So if we don't need to use it and because we haven't got an emergency for eroding, that will just carry forward into the next financial year. So the reds, I wouldn't be too worried about those ones because those, apart from that one small eroding one, which we'll need to carry forward, are relatively appropriate given we haven't had any emergencies, fingers crossed, touch wood, this financial year. So they will carry forward and be the budget available for next financial year as well.
It always captures our attention.
I know.
Yes, thanks, Julie.
Yeah. Just a question on the capital program financials. It's in the middle section there. Approved carried forwards. Is that from previous years or is that?
That's previous years. That's what came across this year. Yep.
Came across them.
At the start of the year, that's what came through into our budget.
Julie, that's why we're saying there's a conversation to come up under the LTP because they tend to be the killer.
Yeah. My probably follow-on question is how many of them have been shifted or moved on?
And we are doing a little bit of work on that, just so that for next year we've got understanding of what has carried forward more than one financial year. So.
Nothing at the moment.
Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Chair, just this on the same page 79, where you say under the graph, the circular one, of the current projects, excluding those that have been pushed out or cancelled, 135, 81% equating to for a certain figure, 92% are in delivery phases. Then why are we saying these are either being procured, physically underway or completed? If they have been completed, why would they be pushed out?
Because some of the completed, we just have to be really careful, some of the completed projects and they actually still have some funds sitting in them. There's got to be some decisions made on that. So
So even if the work is physically complete, it'll still sit there until we make a decision?
So just I'll give you an example. So we've got bridging contracts, which we've procured over 2 financial years. So we've got 23 bridges, for example, under that have been taken out for procurement. We've delivered many of those bridges, but we do have contingency that sits alongside that. So those pieces of contingency for some of those projects will be will be moved into the next financial year to help us deliver an extra bridge, which we've put into our provisional, for example. So that's a very valid reason why you would take from that project the contingency to place into the next financial year, even though the project this financial year is completed. Because of our roading program, we want to use that to its maximum capacity.
Right, because I would have thought if something could show us in a better light than there is, it would be, but I get your point. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Can we go to the motion, please, which is that we note the report of a mover and a second. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Rob. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Thank you, you guys.
Thank you.
All right, annual plan. It's a biggie, but hopefully reasonably straightforward. Is it a hint? Well, I suspect you guys are sick and tired of this. You've been through it so many times. I'll keep the whole day for you, just the me. Joe, welcome. Say a couple of words.
So I've got lots of people down the end of the table today, and I've got Nicole online for any questions that may come up. So I'm only presenting it, I'm not the answerer. So once again, everyone, just want to introduce the annual plan 26-27 for recommendation to council for adoption. Of course, you will remember that you saw this in your 25th of February meeting, and we went and had a detailed discussion of all the components that made up that report at that time. This report still takes it back to those basics and sort of talks about it from the start rather than just from the February meeting. So if you do require that level of detail, then it should be provided in there for you. Just in terms of the overall, I'll just go over it at a high level. As the Mayor's previously indicated in a lot of his correspondence, and I'm sure he'll talk about it again today, this continues to be a challenging year for rates increases as we move towards the financial sustainability of council as required by us by legislation, particularly for those who have got water and wastewater or who are connected to the water and wastewater schemes. Once again, we're looking to fully fund the interest on the loans that's associated with those. So that has seen the majority of the rates increase for that area, which is 27% overall from the previous year. That's a very large increase. And next year, of course, as we are statutorily required, we will be fully funding or moving towards fully funding depreciation. So it will be another large increase next year, even though we had previously indicated in our LTP that we wanted to spread that over a number of years. On top of that, of course, we have our other rates increases, which make up around 4.99%. Of that, there's about 1.7% makes up the roading, and the rest of it is generally an inflationary aspect of it, more than anything. If you want to see more detail on that, there is, just further to Councillor Boparai's question of us during the draft, I have provided that table in there that explains the rates increases. It's on page 84, and it just shows you the 25-26 rates, the key reasons for each of the rate increases to get you to that now new total of 84.7 million rates for this year. Overall, other aspects that have changed, our projects, as we've just talked about, have moved up since we last presented it. Overall, the LTP indicated about $80 million worth of projects. It's now sitting around 89.8. The key reason for that is, of course, the CASA project and the government funding for that, around the 7.5, so that's the key reason for that change. It will still be challenging, as you've heard the team talk about, and it's definitely something that they will be continuing to look at as they have been doing over the last couple of years, just to address some of those issues. They are in a better position in terms of scoping and procuring a lot of those projects earlier on, but it still will continue to always be a challenge, and they'll talk to you about that as the year proceeds. In terms of our external loans are looking towards going towards 154 million if this was to go in place. We're currently sitting around the 100 million, so there's an increase for that. And as I said before, in terms of our balanced budget, we are definitely moving closer and closer towards that. We are now sitting at 99.5%, so we're just about at the balanced budget stage potentially. So that's just an overview of the numbers. In terms of the key changes and things that have happened in this annual plan, particularly since we talked in February, there's probably a couple of things that have occurred. One, of course, we all know about when we hit the pumps is the fuel increases that have been very volatile to both our fleet, our CIASA operations and the supply of electricity on the island in terms of our contractors and their ability to deliver within the prices that they are contracted to do, as well as commodity prices and bitumen and pipes and the such like. At this stage, we have not actually changed this budget to reflect any potential increases in those costs, barring one little point, which I'll just note in a minute. We're trying to take those within the existing budget that we had indicated to you back in February. We may have to come back at a later date and talk about that further. Hopefully there's been some good news out of the war in Iran that perhaps won't necessitate that discussion to occur, but it's something that we still need to just highlight to you. The other key factor that, of course, has occurred is your community facility contracts, I should say, that have been going through the pipeline. We're just finalising those all off. We've been out to your community boards. We've talked to them. They've been fully informed of just through the decision-making process, know their financial implications and relevant budgetary changes in terms of 26-27 by funding it either from underspends that they may actually have in those years or looking to use reserves that they've got to fund it. If that changes likewise or those underspends or reserves aren't sufficient, we will equally come back. As a council, you have done the same. You've looked at it and you've been looking at reserves to fund that in that short term, with the full effect, of course, coming into our LTP in the following year. Other things that we've talked about in this report is because we have undertaken the forecasting process that we did in March, that moved a number of our projects into the next financial year. The implications of that means that, of course, the interest and principal that we need in the first year, being 26-27, decreased by about $173,000. Now, what we've done with that is that we've actually put that number back into maintenance lines and the relevant rate types. And the reasons we've done that is just to help offset those other costs that I was talking about a minute ago, the fuel volatility, the community facilities. Okay, at $173,000, we thought actually that's probably just an extra buffer in there that was available. So that's what we have done in this report. As I said, this report incorporates forecasting and unbudgeted expenditure, so that's the majority of the changes from what you saw in February to now. It's reflecting those. We have, as you'll see in the resolutions, added a couple of extra projects just in there. One was just a movement that we had missed in forecasting, and the other one that's just come up. There are some, and Sam's at the end of the table if you've got any queries, we are also just asking you to endorse the additional changes to the public convenience budgets, which you noted in your February report that you were dropping at $1 million. The team have gone away, done a lot of hard work in that. It's gone up slightly, so they've reduced it a slight more, and they've also provided you a schedule at the back that outlines the toilet program that they are looking to undertake. Further to that as well, and subsequent to this report being prepared, they also did some more refinement, which I'm sure they'll continue to do. They noted, I think it was another 4 further refinements that needed to happen to the program. Now, we can't get them into the annual plan, but if you endorse them today and we get the recommendation from Council, we'll make sure that from 1st of July that's reflected in your projected numbers, even if it's not in the document itself. On top of that, there have been some minor changes to fees and charges that have occurred. But that's basically probably the highlight from me of the annual plan. And now if you've got any questions, the rest of the team are going to answer them.
Yes, I think we can get straight to questions. That would be good. Do you have questions? Yeah, Christine.
So just a question in relation to paragraph 9, and it's noted there that operating expenses is a decrease in interest but an increase in employee costs. Is that increase in employee costs related to additional staff, for example, associated with the financial system?
Oh, no, that principally is just an inflationary factor. When you look at it at a total level, I think it's like 500,000 or something. It's mainly inflationary.
So increases. That's not already incorporated into the plan long term?
Yes, there is, but
Over and above that.
yes, it is. Because if you remember rightly, like we went through a period of, and Joe's better to talk to this than probably I am, but we went through a period of actually employee costs out in the marketplace going up substantially over a period of a couple of years. And so that's been reflected through the prices because we try to stay within the market.
Just going down to paragraph 26, and obviously it's corrected in the resolution, but it talks about increasing maintenance costs by 173,000 million. That was useful.
Yeah.
But it talks about only covering rising fuel costs and increases in community facility costs. So when you talk about rising fuel costs, even allowed for that, that's involved in the community facilities contract.
So it's both. It's going to be everywhere. So what we're trying to do is say, hey, there's going to be community facility contract increases. There's also potential volatility in the fuel costs, whether it be in CIASA, whether it be in contractors, whether it just be in, whatever. And so that's going towards that whole bucket of any increases.
It's very hard to predict the future with the fuel costs.
Correct. And that's why we have not made any substantial changes to the budgets. And we're trying to absorb it as much as possible within the existing ones that we set.
Thank
or
you.
indicated to you. And yes, Nicole did note that she rang me this morning to say it was 173,000 million. But hey, that's
I like that number.
Right now.
Thank you, Christine. Rob.
Thanks, Bruce. I've got a couple of questions. Just a comment on the depreciation and the increase of that, and it's just come from a couple of conversations I've had with people over the last few days, is it's not an expense that's going nowhere, it's actually going into future renewals for the depreciation. So it's got a long-term positive impact, even though it's got a short-term painful impact. I think a lot of people haven't kind of seen how that works. But just on page 127, we've got in there the Winton Centennial Playground Equipment Renewal for nearly $3 million. I just wanted to check what that, because it's under roading, I just wondered if that was a potential.
I would say this.
That'd be quite a cool playground for $3 million.
Steve was keeping
Did you have one of those, Jen?
She'd worked out a good move there.
Yeah,
We got away with it, Christine.
Yeah, well, you have a crack on Phil. You've been found out.
well spotted. Yeah, no, that definitely doesn't look like it's a roading program there. So, yep, so we'll definitely check that and give you feedback when we come back to the council meeting next week.
And then on page 134, the Balfour wastewater treatment plant, so the annual treatment upgrade. So those amounts there, I'll just note that we're currently working on alternatives for that plant. And if we're spending that much on the consenting now without knowing what the future's going to be, I just worked it out, it's $19,000 per connection just on the consent. So I just wonder whether that needs to be paused as part of the wider project, because that's relatively significant expenditure on a small plant.
So, correct. We are working with NIF at the moment to look at opportunities specifically for that plant. So we have got it on pause, but we want to see, we still would like to have the budget available if we need to. So we're not going to spend it if we don't believe it's appropriate to spend it. So we're ideally, the package plant that is being proposed looks like a great alternative. However, we still unsure of whether or not that's going to come to fruition, I guess.
And one more question, if I may, Mr. Chair, just on page 138. And I got a bit of deja vu when I noted this, so forgive me if I've already asked it. Eastern Bush is twice with a very similar amount. I just wanted to double check that that's actually two separate projects.
So through you, Mr. Chair, and other guys will just have a quick look at that, but I would say that what that is that we were expecting to do the project in multiple portions over multiple years, and because we've been holding it, because of the standards and things that have been going on, we've as part of forecasting, we've moved that into this year, so that's why it's still sitting there as two portions. But I'll get
it was split over 2 financial years, and so we've moved it into 1 financial year. Unfortunately, it does have the same number because it was split 50-50 over both financial years for delivery.
That's generally about the accountants wanting to make sure that they don't have to do lots of reconciliations, so they're trying to follow the one line all the way through.
Rob, I would follow through actually. I mean, I appreciate that we want to cut and paste to keep things efficient, but that is confusing. I think when I see multiple times a Winton or whatever, I think it's just one project that's $3.6 million. That's what ratepayers need to know, whereas this is a bit management-y rather than anything else. I don't know whether you've got time. I'm not going to suggest that we spend a lot of time on trying to get this fine, other than making the numbers correct. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Tom.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Just on page 82, just talking about that financial refinement around toilets. I see Garston refurbishment. The initial budget was 600,000 and the revised is 400,000. And we may be looking at a further report for additional funding. Is that 400,000 revision, is that the total of the expenditure as part of the revision? Or is council seeking further finance to bring it up to that 600K?
Through the Chair, there's 2 components to the total Garston toilet project budget. There's $50,000 to complete the planning and consenting for the disposal field and the project generally. There's $400,000 provided for refurbishment works of the toilet, so that's $450,000. What we're doing there is we've moved from a full replacement to proposing a refurbishment of the existing structure. We've just got a specialist advisor going to have a check of that. So we believe that the budget's adequate currently, but we're flagging for you as elected members that we may be coming back should we receive that further advice that we need additional funding. But what 450 is the total amount that we're proposing to you today.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Christine.
Yes, come back for another talk. Just on page 104, it talks about strengthening iwi and Maori partnership and council decision making. We recognise the need to build capacity and capability in order to have effective and meaningful partnerships with iwi and Maori. I would think we already have effective and meaningful relationships. It's not to say they can't be strengthened. So just the wording around that, if we could have a look
Be more positive. Be more positive. Yep.
Yes, and on page 120, about the closed landfill, a total closed landfill protection. So it's talking about payments to staff and suppliers have increased because that work's been delayed. So why closed landfill? Why have those costs to suppliers and payments to staff and suppliers increased?
Sorry, I'll need to come back to you on that, or with the specifics on that.
Okay, yes, sorry, I could have emailed it. Page 120.
I'm thinking that's possibly something that we have written the FIS commentary for. Oh, thank you, Susan.
So what we're referencing when we write the FIS commentary is a comparison between the number that was included in the long-term plan for 26-27 and what we've now got in there for the annual plan for 26-27. So in this case, what we would have said is we had payments to staff and suppliers, and I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but for example, we had $1 million worth of payments to staff and suppliers planned in the LTP. Because we deferred work out of either year 1 or year 2 and into year 3, it's now going to be, say, $1,250,000. So that's the increase it's referencing. It's the movement of the project the cost from one year to another, rather than necessarily the increase in the actual cost of undertaking the work. If that makes sense.
Probably not to me, but discussion. Thank you.
I think that, again, it's obviously you're going to have a reword. I think it's clarity. I mean, what I hear is the project's being so you'd make certain that's ground truth, but also equally clarity
and how they identify costs.
Yeah.
$250,000. Yeah.
Anything else, guys? Yes, Julie.
Thank you. On page 102, under the key matters,
We haven't got any mention of the fact that we are doing work on the spatial plans, and I think that's from a community point of view, that's really important. And, you know, it's a good project to almost be pushing through. And so, you know, would be I suppose it doesn't matter that it's not there, but again, it's a positive thing that we're doing. And just because I wasn't here to highlight it.
You'll be so proud.
236 in the table and in the fourth paragraph, Tokanui is spelled incorrectly.
Good on you, Julie, thank you. Look, I appreciate that it's probably the only time I've looked at the annual plan. You guys have been through the process, and I just wanted to make a couple of observations as we move to the recommendation. The first is, I've looked at this from particularly the financial strategy perspective, and I've been interested, and I hadn't realised this, Anne, that we were funding depreciation on our depreciation reserves.
Principal repayments.
Interest. You say interest. No, you say
sorry.
you're using capital reserve for an operating payment.
Yes.
I'm glad we're correcting it, but that's kicking the can down the road up until now. So I think, Rob, because you've alluded to this, I think when you made your opening comments, I think it's really important we recognise that we are getting our financial strategy correct. It also helps us, therefore, have a better sense of being able to balance our budget properly, even though the immediate short-term pain is undoubtedly transparent there. I don't know if that's said that clearly in your report. I think it should be said more clearly. Not to take a hit ourselves, because I think we're just reflecting for you know, I've been in this for meritorious reasons. We've tried to shelter the ratepayer, but in reality, we've built a hole for ourselves. So I think it's important to try and put that in simple stuff. So when you go to your report on page 100, you know, you sort of start off with that in the, or whatever, about a third of the way down the page, a key factor. And I just wonder if that could be simplified and made clearer for the ratepayer what we're doing. So I totally endorse the change in financial strategy. And if I can call it that might be overstating it. So actually, it's a really important thing. Coming back to it when you go and read through the paper. So I think that's really good. I note, Anne, where are we at? You know, that's fine. I note, Anne, that the risks and mitigations of the plan, you've already dealt with quite clearly. There's unexpected inflation. You talked about Nicole, the 173,000 fund to buffer you against that. I am interested in again, we've talked on this for 3 waters contractor capability and availability being a risk in this plan. So I think that's something as a committee we should focus on. The only other thing then dealing with the real report, I've already mentioned that, and you know, and I think there could be a bit of accountability over the change in that policy, because in effect we are, in the immediate sense, changing our financial policy, which costs them more money for no discernible change in service. It comes in the future, you know, which is why I think it's really important that we are clear not only about the impact, but actually the benefit of changing, or the value proposition of moving to that. Because otherwise, your community, when apart from the fact legislatively you've got to, they might say why you're doing it. The only other thing then that warrants me, if anything, taking time today is that I think we might be just missing a resolution. I just want to reflect, why are we happy this is a financially prudent budget? Okay, and I hate to say it, for those of you who've been in the room before, I just want to take you through 3 or 4 key numbers, which mean I am clear that I see this as a prudent financial budget and we should move it. I go to page, well, it's about 163 onwards, look at the primary financial statements, and I want to give you 4 numbers. One is, I always look at depreciation, which stands at $45 million. So the critical phase that we're in, while I know we want to encourage economic growth, those areas of growth and community, the critical phase for us with living pressures, etc., is that we are maintaining our asset base. And we know that's difficult. So anyway, we're $45 million. So the second number I look at is if you go to the statement of cash flow, which is on page 162, you'll see a line there towards the top of the box, net cash flow, outflow from operating activities. Okay, so this is in effect the cash we have through our normal operating sources of income and expenditure, and that balance is $44.7 million. In an ideal world, even though the accountants on one will tell you there's lots of reasons why it won't be exactly the same, that closely approximates the value of depreciation. That suggests it's actually $600,000 difference, but it's not the differences get between friends. That basically is the right number. I mean, you might like it higher, but you'd have to rate more to get it higher. But it does suggest that we are asking today's ratepayer to pay for the use and consumption of the asset base. So that's a really important one. In the past, that number's been substantially different. The net cash flow from operation has been substantially lower. So it is going in the right direction. The only other thing I would say is funding credit rating agencies look at that number or their version of it a lot. So we should probably get more used to it. The second, the other two numbers that I just reflect on is we might be rating for essentially $45 million depreciation. Are we delivering the renewals? That's where the CapEx deliverability becomes really important. Well, that's dealt with in a separate report, but I would just note in the cash flow statement, we are planning to spend this is cash, but $86 million in the coming year. And if you go to the FIS statement, which is on page 165, the more refined number, which is $57 million. So out of that planned capital spend that we're going to have as you work through for the coming year, $57 million is identified as renewals. So when we've got $44 million in depreciation, that suggests that we are doing more, which is actually probably appropriate. We probably have deferred maintenance in there, if I can say that without total knowledge. $57 million makes a lot of sense. And it's not that within the improving your asset base, there won't probably be an element of renewal as well. So it does mean that actually this is this is a sound financial strategy in my view. And I think that's really important, recognising that in that top half, it's starting to change and get our funding policy, which is not trying to fund tomorrow's interest costs out of capital monies. That's important. There is a sobering point to this, which is if you go to the cash flow statement, go back to my point that there are 44 million, there's the one word, there is a net cash inflow of $44 million. We still need another $44 million in debt to build up our asset base. That's not wrong. Actually, we always talk in the business, don't we, of good and bad debt. We are investing in our asset base. Perhaps if we'd had different policies in the past, that might be a different number, but it does reflect that we're actually doing something positive for the community. So with that, I'm pretty happy that actually this is the right approach. And so I think as a committee, as we come to the resolutions, I'd ask you to keep that in mind, given we're a finance committee, that actually we should be reflecting to council we think this is a prudent plan, as well as also the description about the projects and what have you that you're going through. Rob, you got a point?
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Just a final point, and just touching on what you've just said, and it's the last paragraph on page 100 in that summary, reflecting on the actual makeup of, bearing in mind that in our long-term plan we budgeted for 11%, and we're sitting underneath that. But when you break it down into what that rate is actually made to, that 4.97%, of which 1.97 is actually road. So we're effectively sitting on a 3% which actually directly mirrors inflation. So when you're having these rates capping kind of conversations and you break that down to what it actually is, taking into account that 27% in the waters is exactly what you've just described, is getting our books in order and getting that depreciation right and setting ourselves up properly. On that prudence piece, I think that actually is something to actually.
I don't want to, suddenly make this annual plan a Ben-Hur, but I actually think you should say that. It's not. I get it because I'm an accountant, so I can work it through in my head. But actually, it doesn't hit between the eyeballs. Just as I think, by the way, and one other thing I should meant to say was, well done on your and this is why your financial strategy is important. If you go to page, 43. Paragraph 43 on page 90, looks like, if I've read this correctly, the decision that you made to fund the ratepayer portion of what was like to spend on that has been used to really positive effect. I don't think you make enough noise about that. That's a good move. You took a prudent decision, you kept the rates up, even though you didn't have the subsidy, and look at the benefits that come from it. There's lots of positives here, which, again, you can see I'm probably more a marketer these days than anything else, Rob, but I think I might want to say it slightly differently in the forward. Yes, Christine?
Thank you. You talked about being prudent, but I don't think it was a decision that was particularly favoured by audit. Was it?
Well, the older numbers were wrong. We're in the wrong direction. That's why I say if you go back to my ratios, I haven't gone back to old documents, but you would have found essentially the difference between depreciation and net cash flows a greater variance. Net cash flows were substantially under, like even potentially 50%, but I have to go back and check my numbers. That suggests that we are out of kilter. And that's why we have to, we've had this, we've deferred the policy of not to increase for some time. That's why actually getting this increase back into our financial strategy to increase rates to cover depreciation is having this benefit now. So I think it's value. Right, look, that leaves us, that's just a wee bit of just to give you a sense of where, as the independent member, my head is thinking. So I do think we could probably deal with the resolutions. What I would like to suggest, though, and I don't know whether I've quite got it right, I had trouble when I was trying to get my head doesn't write motions really well. I think we do need to note as finance that this is a unbalanced budget at 99.5%. I know you guys are going to say yes, but technically it is. Section 100 says it should be balanced. I think we should be asserting that we note the unbalanced budget at 99.5%. And that the committee considers that, I want to say notwithstanding that, it is maintaining a financially prudent position for 26-27. I would like to put that in there because I believe it's important that when you sit as council, you have the knowledge that this committee, the finance committee, says that we think it's the right place to be in. I'd like to suggest that we wordsmith that a wee bit at the end, but I do think it's really important that we just know that it is technically unbalanced. We are prudent. We actually meant to resolve that. You guys will have to resolve that in the meet. Must be next week to adopt the annual plan anyway. So I just think the council needs to benefit. The finance committee is saying that. So with that, we have the motions. I mean, I won't go through them all. I think they all make basically a ton of sense. You need to do that just to get yourself up to date with where this particular document sits. There may be a wee bit of editing that you want to have a crack at. As always, Rob, we tend to go to yours, but I don't know whether that's stimulated any thinking about that, but I don't suspect you want to make a lot of change. And I am recommending that we include K, which is to note that it's an unbalanced budget, but we still believe we are maintaining a financially prudent position for the 26-27 annual report. I'm prepared to move that. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Phil. Is there any discussion on the motion? There isn't. Can I put it, please? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, it's carried. And have you said thank you to your team? I'm going to say thank you to your team. I'm going to say thank you to you as well. I feel like as a finance committee, I know you will have done a lot of hard yards behind the scenes with everybody on this, and people like down here at the Coal Online, you will have done a ton of hard yards. So thank you. It's almost the shouting. I've got to get through the next week. Okay, thank you. I'm going for my time.
Great.
Am I great? Okay. Can we deal with Datascape, please? Anne, what's the speech? Joe?
We're just going to have a full team sitting
Oh,
up
I've got a
here.
full team sitting here.
Yep.
Rightio.
Take the middle. Come online. We've got Andrew and Elena.
Andrew, g'day Andrew, good to see you.
Yep. And Craig will come up too.
Hello.
I thought Craig, you were swanning around on Stewart Island.
Oh, no. Right.
Okay.
IT system on
Can you?
Stewart Island now, which is great. Okay, Anne, please.
No, I'll come back and just summarise right at the end, but I'm just going to hand it over initially to Elena just to run us through this report, please, and Andrew to support that with the team checking in whenever they need to.
Fabulous. Thanks, Anne. Can you guys hear me okay? Everyone can hear me?
Yes, we can, Elena, thank you.
Fabulous, thank you. Okay, so well, thank you for the opportunity. Firstly, I'm taking the paper as read. And what I'll do is I'll provide you a short overview of the status of the Datascape implementation. And in the interest of time, I'll keep this snappy, but then we'll invite questions after. So following that. So just kicking things off with testing. Testing is an important component of the implementation and planning for the go live. So staff are completing final testing to confirm the critical processes. We do still need to iron out what's called the goods receipting process. So in layman's term, this is the matching process between an invoice and a purchase order once an invoice has been received back into the organisation. So staff are working really hard on this and we expect to have it sorted by early next week. So that's probably our one key priority that we're working on right now. There's a few small other issues to be resolved and we're continuing to manage these either internally or through the use of Jira tickets, which is Datacom's issues management system. That's how we liaise with our vendor Datacom. Training, it's well underway. We've had over 100 staff come through our training sessions and feedback overall has been very positive. We held an executive session yesterday where I understand there was robust discussion held throughout the time and that was positive feedback as well. And we're just finishing up those now so that we've got the last couple of sessions in the next couple of days. So for the soft launch, that's one of our, we're requesting to approve that to commence from tomorrow. So our soft launch approach is, the purpose is to smooth the onboarding of users as opposed to a big bang. So therefore we're reducing the risk of errors and a poor user experience by bringing people on slowly, offering them intensive support and making sure that we then gradually introduce people over the next couple of weeks. And there'll be a prioritisation on that of people who need, the reason we're doing it is staff need to start producing their purchase orders for the 26-27 financial year. So we want to get those people on as soon as we can so that they can then issue them to their various suppliers. We can get things working for the next financial year. So a support framework has been established that after the initial heavy support we'll give them when they first get into the system, we've got a support framework as well that gives them various channels to help, if they've got questions or to seek help. So we've got that wrapped around in place. Overall, we're still looking very good for 1 July for Go Live. We have a recommendation that we request that the committee delegate authority to Anne and Andrew to make that final decision. We've got readiness criteria in place that's been reviewed, and we're going to review that and have discussion with project leads to help Anne and Andrew make that decision at the time, which will be in very late June, probably 29th of June. And we understand that Datascape is a new and it's a complex system, so we know the issues are going to arise as we create the soft launch and even through Go Live. But we don't see any issues that's going to stop the continuation of the implementation of Datascape across Council. We do have a backup plan in place, but based on the current implementation readiness, the project team and myself, we consider it's unlikely that a full backup will be required, what we're more likely to do is the backup plan has 4 stages. So there's normal operations, which is the nice one at the top. We've got back out at the bottom. There's 2 stages in the middle, which is stabilisation and contingency. And we expect that any issues that arise, we'll be able to manage that through those 2 forms of management without having to back out the full system. So from just financially, I'm sure you'll be interested in that as well. So the budget for the full financial management system and human resources system, which includes payroll, back in 21-22, that was just under 1.2 million, 1.171 thousand. So at the end of May, we've got $346,000 remaining within that budget. We do expect that it will be used, and any unused portion will be carried through to 26-27 to complete the datascape, fund the budgeting system, which is the IBIS Breeze system that we're implementing as well shortly after this, and then also the procurement of the payroll system as well, and implementation of that. So that is the 346,000 we'd expect would be used for all of those. Yeah, so that's it from me. It was a very brief introduction in the interest of time, but I welcome any questions, and if any of the rest of the team want to make any comments, particularly Andrew as well, I invite them to speak now.
Andrew, do you want to make a comment?
Exactly. How about I provide a brief overview? So, good morning, everybody. Good to see you all. So my comments. So if I sit back and think about this project in terms of where we're at, first comment would be, I can certainly say, from a governance point of view, the process that the team are going through is the right project implementation process. And by that, I mean there are certain just steps that all these types of projects must go through in terms of user acceptance testing, integration testing, which is where you've got multiple other systems that Datascape's going to be working with, so making sure that that is happening. The staff training, because it's one thing having a system up and running, but you need to have staff that know how to use it. And so you'll see in your pack in front of you all the different steps, of which there are quite a few, that this team has to go through to make sure that it is fine and ready to go live. So when I look at that, I can say that they are going through the right process. So that's the first thing that I care about. And then the second thing is, when they're going through that process, what could be the hiccups which cause us a headache? And when you think about it from that point of view, there are sort of big issues, ones that you would not want to go live with, and then there'll be a whole lot of other things which you can manage and make workarounds for, or can be fixed along the way. So firstly, I get confidence that the team know what their big ticket items are that they want to get across the table. So if I talk to Anne or Elena, then they certainly know, hey, there's some key functionality that we have to get right. So that's good that they are very aware of it and are monitoring it. And then lastly, one of the things that sort of gives me confidence of this particular project is the staff that are in front of you right now and how much in the detail the staff are. You can sort of imagine these sorts of projects, there is a lot going on. There's a lot of balls to juggle, but they've divided up the work amongst that staff so that there's certain staff that are absolutely in the detail and know what's going on, which is just absolutely critical for these sorts of projects. If I think about from a risk point of view, one of the reasons that I'm also comfortable with the stage that we're at and what's going to happen over the coming weeks is, you would have heard Elena talk about a soft launch and a phased approach. Back in the day, 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, IT projects were big bang. You sort of switched over from one system to the other on a certain day, and everyone held their breath and hoped that it would work and go all right. These days, people have learnt from that, and they turn on the system bit by bit, I guess most importantly, only introducing a few staff at a time over a period of time. So it absolutely brings that risk down. So it's a good normal approach that IT projects do, and we certainly see it here in front of us. Happy to pass it back to the floor. Those are my views.
Thanks, Andrew. That's really good. I'm grateful the team are here, but I'm going to ask members whether they have questions first, because I suspect you guys might be the answerers of those questions. So do we have any questions for the team here on Datascape? We're essentially being asked to give staff the ability to say go live. Yes, Tom?
Yeah, through Mr. Chair. Andrew, pretty much summarising what you've just talked about, is that talking about going through that code freezing implementation process? And if that is the case, are you able to give our staff examples of going through that implementation process where you've got real examples of, code freezing, and can you sort of pass that on to our IT staff to sort of help them go through that process?
So certainly, going through the code freeze process is extremely important. So just so people are aware about why. So these sorts of projects, people will be finding little bugs or wanting little changes right up to the date of going live or phase go live, and you've got to sort of make a call at some point and say, actually, that little change, let's not do it now. We've got to keep a stable system and let's put it in a month or two's time. Okay, it might be a tweak to a report where you're just adding a field, for example. So it's all about what the priority of that change is. We heard Elena talk before about goods receipting and getting that right, and you can tell that is one that's high up the agenda. If it's something around just getting a field added to a report, which isn't actually, it's a nice to have, then that can wait a month or two down the track, as a couple of examples.
So in terms of that prioritisation process, are we talking about multiple numbers of code freezing instances, or are we talking about just a very small number? Because it's a complex program, right?
Yeah. So the code freeze is just saying from a certain point in time, we're not going to make any changes to the system. It's saying, okay, we are now just having a pause on that, and the pause will be for a few weeks. Elena, can I ask, so just as an example, has the code freeze started, or have you decided when that's going to take place?
Yeah, so there's a code freeze and a configuration freeze, which are two different things. Craig might want to jump in and help me with this as well. But so the code freeze itself is, so the Datascape system does these little small point releases every couple of weeks that Datacom releases to everybody that uses the system. We're stopping all of that. We're stopping any what they call hot fixes, which is quick things we may need. So that code freeze is now already in place until we advise them when it's off. Now, that will likely be at the earliest mid-July, maybe towards the end of July. So that's one piece. What Andrew was referring to as well with the configuration, exactly, we're all on board. If there's a small change to a report or something, we can still have it. We can still make those changes in our like our development environment, so that they're ready to go once we want to release them. But the only config changes that we'd make is anything that's material to the operation of the critical processes. And if we need to do that, part of the plan is that we'd have to go through Anne and Andrew to get those bundle of configuration changes made in a steady environment. We test them in dev first, then release them. But it's very minimal. It's only for critical processes that we would be doing that. Is that Matt and Craig?
That's fairly comprehensive and pretty standard process. So there's just a lot more rigor in terms of how we would actually take those changes through to production. Obviously, we don't want to make any changes. We know the system's in a certain state, and that means that when we're testing or validating fixes, we know what we're dealing with.
Thank you for the question, Tom. I've got Rob and then Matt.
Thanks, Bruce. Just a question, and there's been a handful of councils up and down the country that have had issues with their rating piece, just from our external facing point of view, where there's been errors in calculations that have had relative and material impact. Are we comfortable that those kind of consequences, I guess, there's things in place to catch anything like that before it actually hits our ratepayers in terms of some of the nuances about even some of the rates, remissions and those sorts of things?
Yes, sorry, Mr. Chair. Our actual rates themselves are going through a separate system called Pathway. That one's not changing for this suite of system changes. So in terms of those underlying calculations of who pays what rates, no changes at all there. Pathways receives a singular number in how much rates we need to bring in. So as long as that number is that number, it's still going to pull out the same amount. That number for the annual plan that you're working through at the moment is coming from our legacy fulcrum budgeting system. So again, no change there. For our next annual report, so the one that will come through in a few months' time, that's also coming out of the legacy JDE system. So no impact there. The first real impact you'll start to see on publicly available sort of figures will be your first round of council reporting, those monthly reports, which I believe is around September-ish, correct me if I'm wrong. And so those will be the first real public view of what the system is actually outputting. And with that clean cut-off on 1st July, all the old year in the old system, or the new year in the new system, we're confident that will allow us to actually provide you with accurate information.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. There, Rob. Matt, welcome to the meeting.
Thanks, Bruce. Good morning. I hope I got a okay connection here. I'm just on the road. Thanks for the update on this, and it's quite comfortable seeing the go live readiness. The question I have is just as far as legacy data and the historic data, is there any risk of loss of historic data over this kind of data migration process? And if there is there like a crossover specific date of how far historic data goes back to? Yeah, just wondering that.
So again, through you, Mr. Chair, we aren't actually bringing very much historical data at all across into the new system. How we plan on managing that is it stays within the old system, and we'll have tools in place to access it through there. And that decision was made for clarity's sake as much as anything, so the accountants know exactly where to look to find a certain year, so there's not that potential for a mismatch.
Also through you, Mr. Chair, from a systems perspective, these systems aren't being decommissioned right away. So for the JD Edwards system, there is a dependency on payroll system being implemented, so those systems will be kept up, but we will just tighten the security around them as well. And as part of that decommissioning plan, we will consider the archive and retention of the data when we go through the decommissioning process in full.
Brilliant.
Cool, thanks for that.
Thanks, Matt. Any other questions? So what I'm reading out of this, and I look, firstly, Elena and Andrew as our externals, thank you. I take a lot of confidence in both, the approach that you're leading, but also the confidence you're giving me, Andrew. So this is a really good news item. It's coming on, even though we didn't reset it, I appreciate that. It's coming on in time, cost and quality. So it actually says it's a pretty good project. So, and indeed, if I've got it correct, Elena, your risk table is probably pretty much what we would expect at this stage. There's nothing there that's jumping out that's saying to me that I should be worried. You have got your go, no-go criteria table there, which in my somewhat uninitiated mind, it strikes me as pretty important. And I think the critical thing there is that that we do have from staff on paragraph 7, there are currently no critical risks. So I think that says that you're obviously done a great job, guys. It also means that I think we should have some confidence in passing the two substantive motions, which is approving the soft launch on the 18th of June. That's Friday, and that actually we delegate to Anne and to Andrew the full shooting box on 1 July. Do I have a mover and a second for that? Thank you, Sarah. Do I have a second? Thank you, Phil. The motion, all those in favour, please say aye. All those against, it's carried.
Say
okay.
point at this point. This project has just reminded me of the importance of, having good people, great teamwork and really good communication. And I think that needs to be highlighted across every facet of the organisation. Like, I thank you guys very much for the support that you gave us through some of the decision making that we had to make during this time. Thank ELT for also supporting me when perhaps I probably wasn't as informative on where things were at, but they just let us get going in what we're doing. The team at the end of the table have done an amazing job. And I think we need to be very grateful for the people that we have here and the focus that everybody puts across the organisation on getting the right outcomes, and concentrating on what it is. That's really important. And we can't underestimate that, and I know we're going through a period of extreme change through amalgamations and all the rest. But I know to have that has given me great confidence. And I can honestly say this is the best project that I've ever done from a team perspective across an organisation. So I just want to thank the team. I want to thank the organisation. I want to thank all the people that are behind the team that's sitting here, and the effort and the emotions and the dedications that have gone through this thing. Because and we haven't finished yet, and we will, as Alina's talked about before, we will continue to have to still build this and develop it as we move forward over at least the coming year. And if we can get it completed in a year, we'll be doing exceptionally well. I was here when JDE, I came into JDE coming in. That thing, and Shelley was too, and she can attest to the fact that that thing probably took us 5 years to get through, just because of where it was at. So if we can get this thing out, and I feel in a really good position generally about it. So yeah, I just think we need to highlight this particular one. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. That's great news, guys. Well done. And we will still be interested, by the way, to see how this develops on. I don't think this is the last report we're getting, by the way, but actually, well done. And it's great that it looks like come 1 July, you've seen the fruits of your hard labour. So well done, guys. Appreciate it. We'll move on to the draft long-term plan, please. You were talking
Thanks, Alina. Thanks, Andrew, very much.
See you
very much. Yes, so thank you, Mr. Chair, councillors. So I'm just presenting the draft long-term plan 2737 timetable. Now, as the councillor has just noted to me, this is at a very high level, and there is an expectation that we still have some really clear dates behind this, and we need to start reporting on this. That is true. I probably have circumvented a little bit, tried to introduce it, planning to have some workshops over, also need to sit down and work out exactly what's coming through. I do know that we're going to have a lot of workshops between now and Christmas. I don't think I'm going to apologise for that. That's just the nature of the beast. But I can say that overall the intention is of ELT is to try and not to reinvent the wheel on this LTP. It's very much about trying to take the hard work and everything that we've put in previously into these documents and improving the systems and processes, improving the linkages that need to occur within it. Of course, there is risks associated with it, and I'm actually interested. It's funny how the topics that we talk about in the day come back up again and again. And so for us, the biggest challenges, risks, and potentially opportunities, I guess, continue to be the local government environment that we're currently operating in. That it has a marked impact on the ability for us to actually undertake this project, as well as our BAU, as well as the FMIS and all the other work. And I've got to say, I've been in local government a long time, I'm not going to say how long, but this is the most, most intense that I've ever experienced, where there's just constantly stuff. The expectations of the public that are on us, the need to respond to legislation that has not been finalised, that is still in the pipework and will have an impact, and you're trying to anticipate it. The work that's just happening out and across the organisation, like in the past, often you'll have, some teams that are really busy, some that are going sort of fluctuating. I've never seen this organisation as busy across the board in all our areas as I have seen in this one. And they will be the greatest risks that we will be encountering as part of this LTP plan. I am pleased that at least we can, come back on the good work that has been done in previous years around some of our documents and trying to enhance that. And I do look, when I look across New Zealand and I'm looking at their LTP documents, they're talking in the same language, very much of trying to not reinvent wheels, keep in with what they've been doing, but improving and enhancing the systems and processes around them. So I guess in this timetable, it's pretty clear what's looking at. We're looking at that August, September, trying to get all those numbers in, trying to get all the key assumptions done, getting our policies potentially started, a lot of them talked through, just getting to a point where we've got some stuff to actually work on. Then we move into those September and October times where we're actually taking that data, we're starting to prepare it to go out to our community boards, we're starting to prepare it to see where we're sitting in terms of your expectations and the way forward with stuff. We're also looking then to get into November, December and finalising off that and the strategies and the policies. Moving into January to seek your approval to move us into a draft LTP of which we can go into audit. We've talked to audit, they've keeping us dates in February, so that'll be 3 to 4 weeks over that period, running into March, April and May, consultation, deliberations, hearings, and then, oh my God, June, 30th of June next year. So looking for that finalisation of this long-term plan, and hopefully in the middle of all of that we've got better certainty about what we need to do and the way forward. I'm hoping that, you know, I mean, I remember the last LTP we had NZTA, was it 1 day, 2 days before? I've just seen Susan roll her eyes, telling us that we didn't have our program for NZTA funding and the amount of work that needed. Hopefully that stuff's improved, or will be improving. I won't hold my breath, but anyway. But yeah, hopefully this time we'll have some more certainty that's going along with that. So yeah, I definitely heard the comment. We definitely will be coming back with those timelines a bit more. We'll probably be building them as we go a bit, but I've currently got 3 A3 size pages, and I've been just starting to work through everybody with that. So yeah, I think that's enough.
Thanks, Anne. Questions or comments on the plan? Yes, Christine.
I can assure you we join with you in looking forward to the 30th of June.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'll be a year older.
Well, at least we all have that in common.
Yeah, that's right.
You've got something to tell us.
We have put in an extra meeting to, you know, for workshops to cater for this, I guess, in advance, and recognise the business of all staff around this process as well and needing to get it through. I think I made a comment at the last council meeting. It's really helpful for us, being a bit selfish as councillors, to have the information for the workshops out the Friday before, so when we come to the meeting we can make informed comment, because it's really hard to look at, well, for me, speaking for myself, to look at the information there, kind of make sense of it, process it, and ask informed questions, hopefully, rather than silly questions that are already included in the information we have, but I haven't had something like that. So that will be very, very helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions got this, Rob?
Thanks, Bruce. Just touching, I agree with everything that Christine said, and I think that year is going to go incredibly fast. And looking at our last long-term plan that we did, where we were effectively coming in every week and doing quite intense sessions. So I think for everybody, the onus is on investing everyone's time that's going into that and focusing on the right priorities. And I guess just touching on a lot of the conversations we've already had today about the strength of this council, we've got a good bunch of people around this table, and even looking at the annual plan process that we've gone through, which is continuing on from the last long-term plan, and I almost see that journey, I hate the word, carrying on as well. So it's, yeah, I think, like I said before, we've got the team that can pull this off, but it's going to be, this is a BAU that's going to put that pressure on with all the outside stuff that's coming at us.
Thank you. Tom?
Through you, Mr Chair, just talking about some of the pressures around central government and our spatial planning space. You know, we've had workshops with community boards just recently, effectively around 3 long-term plans, you know, 30-year spatial plan workshops. And one of the concerns I have is, and maybe, I mean, this is a general overview, but whether or not it needs to be looked at a little bit more forensically, I'm not sure, but I'm getting feedback that some of the community boards are pretty nervous around making some of these decisions around spatial planning because of the timelines affiliated with having to make those decisions. Now, from our last community board meeting, when we were presented with this spatial planning, I think we were given a timeline of about 2 weeks to make a decision. Now, I think that's really concerning. And I don't know if we need to have a discussion around those timelines in terms of how we, how we can actually address that risk, I suppose, is my question.
It looks like you're about to break into silence.
Oh, please no.
The overall timelines for the spatial plan that we had discussed right at the start are overly ambitious. I'm not too sure that we've given too short a time frame, because when we're coming to the workshops, the material's been sent, the expectation is that, we'll have a discussion. The third, if they are though, if that's the feeling, and yes, we've heard it in a couple of places, I just want to reiterate, these are not decisions. So these are feedback from the boards that will then go through the process of going to the community, seeking their feedback. It will then come back. So I wouldn't take on the pressure as to a pressure of making decisions. Yes, there is a bit of pressure in providing feedback, but that's what the entire team is going through. The other point I'd like to make is what we're doing in our own spatial plans is going to impact the regional spatial plan. We need to get to a place where we can provide feedback into the regional spatial plan. Yes, the timing is short. It is even worse for the teams that are actually preparing the material for governance to provide some feedback into it. But that's just the time frame we are working through. If we don't have this ready, we won't be able to give our feedback into the regional spatial plan. So unfortunately, we are all in that space. I would also like to reiterate what we've said at the board meetings, which is this is your iteration 1 of your spatial plans. These are not done and dusted. They are not, here's once we've done it and we can never change that. Information changes over time. They will be reviewed, and that's what we'll have to do. So wherever we can, we are accommodating the additional timeframes. Does that help?
That helps. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the... Oh, Fran, you want to make a comment?
I just think it's relevant to note the complication as well in regards to the local water done well aspects, which do mean that those components, so it's not going to be the usual rinse and repeat of a long-term plan. There's the long-term plan process, but we've also got the water services strategy that needs to be formulated as well. And alongside that, obviously, our strategic asset management planning and work that needs to go alongside that. So just want to make that clear. It is going to be a little bit of a different beast to wrangle this time round. So, yeah, just make that point.
Thank you for that. I think we've got an opening paper. I get that. I think it is important that there is a level of greater specification for people's minds, particularly as governors. And I think equally it'll be important with the next report that we get a sense of the risks that are attached to the project. In other words, as we plan the long-term plan, there are risks associated with it. And I might even read out what I've listed as I've gone through. Can I just say I think one of the biggest risks is actually this long-term planning process under the pressure cooker basis exasperates you when you don't feel your voice is heard. I assume in the idea of an LTP is that you can be visionary, you can be strategy-led, and yet I feel for us this time round there are so many constraints. So I think it's going to be important, and I think it is in this, because what I see in this plan is this is a bottom-up build. How much does it cost to run a water system? Whereas the real questions, it's not a blank piece of paper, but do you want to run a water system? That's what we do as governors. So I'm a wee bit, I'm not, concerned's the wrong word. I would advise where is strategic thinking in terms of this plan is the key thing that I would be interested in. So things like understanding our financial strategy, infrastructure strategy, which is a top-down strategy-led, becomes really important because it's got to meet the bottom up. So I just would wonder, Anne, if somewhere in this early on, I hate to say it's early on, I actually think there is a need to actually have a view what's our draft financial strategy like, and only you guys can sort that one out. So it's important, you know, we had that discussion with the annual plan, you know, it's important that we're wanting to rework our financial strategy, if you will, or at least our funding policy around where we fund depreciation from. What does that look like? What does the high level rates should look like? I mean, you've got obviously the restrictions of 4% rates, well, again, probable restriction of 4% rates cap. So that would be my view of advice, but I mean, it's great that this is here and obviously there's a bit there. So I think, can I say a big risk is actually you guys get exasperated in this process because you can't see your vision, your strategy, your thinking in this one, and that needs to be dealt with sensitively. We've talked about time, Christine, and time is also including your time to think, let alone the number of meetings you've got to go to. I think the rates cap is a definite issue, which is still policy, but actually in reality everybody's working to. The tyranny of BAU, and I'm just conscious, and for the finance team, particularly you've got the annual report to get done. Fran, I had noted the local water's done well, and you've got to nail the ongoing transition of the water unit, and its separation, and yada, 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 all about that. The problem is the uncertain legislative environment, which I think comes back to the fact that our out years, the years probably really 3 to 10 of the LTP, are so uncertain because we don't know what actually we might look like. So that's just my list. I suspect there is a bunch more that come. Oh, and an audit. Sorry, a risk is you've got to put an audit over the top of this. That's right. So it is. We've had a lot of positives today, and it's positive that we've got the overall part of a plan. But I'm sort of suggesting we've got to sort of gird ourselves to be ready to run a very hard marathon. We need to look at it. Okay, that's good. We're there. There's more to come. It's next meeting. I suspect, if I've got it right, Anne, thank you. So the resolution is that we note in that staff take on board, I suggest that we ask staff take on board our feedback. Any other comments? No? Can I move that? Do I have a seconder? Yep. Tom? Motion, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. I would like us to take a short break, but to do so, can we please just look at the resolution to move into PX? We've got 6 items there. I've reviewed that, as I do, and I know you folk have too. I propose that we do take those all in PX, so I'm going to move the motion. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Sarah. Is there any discussion on that motion? Being none, I'll put it. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, it's carried. Right. How am I going?
Oh, you're ahead of time.
I'm ahead of time, so we can take 10 minutes? Okay, so my watch says something. It's 1:45.